Lisa and I have been married for 5 years, and she still loves her first love. Even our daughter, who I hold in the palm of my hand, has become a testament to their love. After I die, their story finally reaches a satisfying conclusion. But why? Chapter 1. I woke up on an ordinary day, feeling a sense of awakening. At night, our sick daughter cried for her mother. My heart ached, and I hurriedly carried her to Lisa's place. As I pushed open the door to the private room, I saw Lisa being embraced by a tall, handsome man. Her face flushed, with puckered lips. The atmosphere was lively, and everyone was shouting, "Kiss! Kiss!" Then, our daughter spoke up, "Mommy, what are you doing?" The cheering abruptly stopped. Upon seeing us, Lisa instinctively furrowed her brow, seemingly displeased by the interruption. Quickly, she got up, straightened her clothes, as if nothing had happened, and came over to take our daughter from me. "Baby, Mommy was playing a game." Our daughter looked at the well-dressed man and asked, "Who is he?" The man pinched her rosy cheeks and said, "Uncle Nicholas. And you're Nicole, right? Our names are so similar, it must be fate." As he spoke, he didn't even bother to look at me. The only thing on his face was a smug smile, displaying his satisfaction. Nicholas, Nicole. Suddenly, I remembered the day our daughter was born. I stayed by Lisa's bedside, sleepless through the night. When she opened her eyes, the first words she uttered were, "Nicole, let's name our child Nicole." I cherished her, having gone through the ordeal of childbirth, and I would listen to whatever she wanted. I silently swore that I would never let her endure such pain again. We had Nicole, and that was enough. But it turns out, even in those moments, she was thinking of another man. The instant she opened her eyes, the person she longed to see was never me. Chapter 2. I don't remember how I left. All I remember is seeing them standing in the center of the private room, resembling a family of 3. All I remember is hearing whispers behind me. I don't understand what Lisa sees in Kevin, that useless guy. Yeah, look at Nicholas now, he's so successful. If they end up together, it'll be a power couple. Nicholas is such a passionate man. I heard he's been single all this time, waiting for Lisa. Lisa clearly likes him too, she named her daughter after Nicholas. Maybe Nicole is their child. Kevin is just a stand-in. As we got in the car, I remained silent. I didn't want Nicole to witness our arguments. But Lisa took the initiative and said, "What's the meaning of you suddenly holding Nicole? Did you check my driving records? You've never trusted me." I did check. She wouldn't answer my calls or messages, and in order to find her, this was my last resort. My mind was in chaos, and I almost pleaded, "Nicole just recovered from a fever, she's not feeling well. Can we not argue right now? We can talk about it later." Lisa coldly snorted, glanced at our daughter in my arms, and finally remained silent. I closed my eyes, feeling a coldness in my heart. "Lisa, you're truly ruthless. You used our daughter's existence to remind me of how much you love Nicholas. And what about me? What am I even worth?" Nicole hugged my neck, her voice trembling with tears. "Daddy, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I thought you were unhappy, so I thought seeing Mommy would make you happy. That's why she insisted on seeing Lisa. My Nicole, how can you be so well-behaved?" I softly comforted her, "It's not Nicole's fault. Daddy is not unhappy, Daddy will always love you." Chapter 3. That night, I had a very long dream. The world I lived in was a book, and I was just an insignificant character in it. Nicholas and Lisa were the main characters, each other's first love. Lisa grew up as a wealthy heiress, born with a silver spoon in her mouth, while Nicholas was a proud and impoverished young man. Because of Lisa's father's mockery and disparagement, Nicholas, in a fit of anger, left town, and Lisa, in a fit of pique, married me, who had nothing. In our 5th year of marriage, Nicholas returned from abroad, successful in his career. He still harbored deep feelings for Lisa. And my daughter and I became the biggest obstacles between them. So, not long after, Nicole died in an accident, and I died trying to save other children, in the rushing river. It was only after our deaths that the story truly began. With Nicholas by her side, Lisa gradually emerged from her gloom. Eventually, they had children of their own and grew old together. My and Nicole's names slowly faded from everyone's lives, never to be mentioned again. The creator of this book used our lives, mine and my daughter's, to highlight Nicholas's deep affection for Lisa, to witness the immortality of their love. But why? What did we do to deserve this? Chapter 4. In the early morning, Lisa walked into the study and embraced me from behind. Kevin, nothing happened between Nicholas and me, it was just a big adventure. We were just playing around, with no intentions of crossing any boundaries. I admit, I had too much to drink, and my tone was not good. She leaned against my back and spoke softly, the connection between Nicole's name and Nicholas is indeed there. It was my mistake back then. If you don't like it, we can change her name. Kevin, I have you and our daughter, and that's enough. As for anyone else, they don't matter. Her kisses were gentle and sweet. It seemed like she truly loved me. Before Nicholas appeared, I also believed that Lisa loved me. I thought that time would be enough to erase everything. No matter how passionate their love was in the past, in the end, it would be buried under the ashes of time. I thought we would grow old together, living a happy and fulfilling life. But now, I'm not so sure. Well, none of that matters anymore. I need to save my daughter. I've lived a confused life. But when I held Nicole for the first time, my whole body trembled, and tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. In that moment, I truly understood the meaning of life. I want her to live happily and healthily. Chapter 5. Upon hearing my decision to work outside, Lisa clearly seemed stunned. For all these years, my focus has been on our family. Lisa wanted to be a career woman, to be a powerful woman, so I willingly took a step back. I took care of our daughter, managed the household, and I did it all well. I used to think there was nothing wrong with that. But in the end, she found it embarrassing. Yesterday, when others were gossiping about me, she didn't utter a word in my defense. She must think I'm a worthless loser too. I continued, Nicole is growing up, reaching the age of understanding. I don't want her to be talked about, to be called the daughter of a pushover. It's a lie. In order to secure custody of my daughter, I need a stable job. I've had a patent that I haven't sold yet, and now it's the perfect time to start my own business. Lisa didn't suspect anything, she thought I was just upset from yesterday's events. Kevin, you don't need to compare yourself to others. In my heart, you're a million times better than them. She lightly kissed my cheek, her voice filled with affection. Of course, I support you working outside. You've always been capable. Even before we got married, there were plenty of people who believed in you. Whenever you face difficulties, you can come to me. We're husband and wife, and we should help each other. Those words are just empty promises. Lisa can't really help me. Right now, the Smith family is still under the control of Lisa's father. He looks down on me, and he's always on guard, afraid that I'll steal something from their family. I can only rely on myself. Starting a business is truly difficult. I don't have enough funds, so I have to seek investments everywhere. But fortune favors the determined, and finally, someone took an interest in my patent. As I prepared myself and pushed open the door to the private room, the first person I saw in the main seat was Nicholas. CEO Jason was full of excitement. Kevin, look who I invited, CEO Nicholas. Nicholas smirked, exuding an air of arrogance. 1 bottle of wine, 1 million. The table was filled with strong liquor. His actions were merely meant to humiliate me. I turned around and walked away. But CEO Jason grabbed hold of me. Kevin, don't leave. CEO Nicholas is a leader in the industry. With his support, how can you not succeed? Seeing that I didn't budge, he leaned close to my ear and whispered. Don't be foolish. The Smith family and CEO Nicholas have a partnership. If you dare offend CEO Nicholas and ruin the collaboration, do you think your father-in-law will let you off the hook? He pushed the bottle toward my lips. Come on, drink. With a disdainful smile on his lips, Nicholas seemed confident that I would compromise. CEO Jason's words were half a threat, half persuasion. You better think it through. The Smith family is declining day by day. How long can you hold on to this lifeline? But CEO Nicholas is different. How many people want to have a connection with him now? Nicholas watched the commotion unfold with amusement, holding a highball glass in his hand. CEO Jason, it seems your words have no effect. CEO Jason couldn't bear the humiliation on his face. He had his bodyguard block my path and raised his hand to pour the drink into my mouth. His sudden aggression caught me off guard, and the sharp liquor rushed into my nostrils. I bent over, coughing uncontrollably. CEO Jason sneered and threw the bottle down. You refuse the toast, then you drink the penalty. You're just a lapdog of the Smith family. Even if someone with the surname Smith were to slap you, you wouldn't dare make a sound. Now, you better act tough. Can't you see who's standing in front of you? A pair of shiny leather shoes appeared before me. Nicholas taunted, "Kevin, keep drinking. The bottle isn't finished yet." Seizing the opportunity, I aimed my fist at his face. "You fucking crossed the line." The private room immediately descended into chaos. Outnumbered, I quickly found myself at a disadvantage. At that moment, Lisa stormed into the room, picked up a bottle, and smashed it onto Nicholas's shoulder. Chapter 6. With a loud crack, the bottle shattered. Nicholas stood frozen in place, his face filled with disbelief. Lisa glared at him angrily, her eyes wide open. "Who gave you the right to touch my man? Nicholas, now that you're powerful, you think you can do whatever you want? What makes you look down on Kevin? Let me tell you, he's no worse than you. If it weren't for me and our family, he would have succeeded long ago." Nicholas paused, and everyone else stood still. There was a moment of silence in the air. Fresh blood dripped from his fingertips as Nicholas coldly questioned, "Lisa, have you truly fallen for him? Do you think I'm the only one who remembers our past?" Lisa ignored him. She just held my face, a mix of concern and reproach. "Honey, are you okay? Why are you getting involved with these scoundrels? Let's go home. Our daughter is waiting for you to tell her a bedtime story." Lisa doesn't often act spoiled with me, and she rarely calls me honey. She finds that term too cheesy, so she usually calls me Kevin. Suddenly, I understood. She was putting on this act not for me but for Nicholas to see. She wanted to make him jealous. And as she wished, Nicholas's face darkened terrifyingly. "Lisa, in your eyes, I'm just a clown, right? Who do you think I've been striving for all these years? I couldn't afford to take a single step back because I was afraid that if I stopped, you would be taken away from me. For 6 years, it took me 6 years to get to where I am now. I thought you would wait for me, but you turned around and threw yourself into someone else's embrace. I never blamed you. It was my own choice, but you did it for him." Lisa interrupted him, coldly mocking, "Stop dreaming, will you? My husband is right here. Can you say such things with a straight face? Have you no shame?" Nicholas stared at her intently, as if trying to find any trace of insincerity on her face. But unfortunately for him, he was destined to be disappointed. Lisa's acting was too good enough to deceive everyone. Just like her love for me, she had always acted it out perfectly. After a moment, the light in Nicholas's eyes completely dimmed. "Lisa, you're truly heartless. This sincere heart of mine is worthless in your eyes." With that, he slammed the door and left. The room fell silent. Lisa lowered her head, her expression gloomy. After a while, she took hold of my arm, pretending to be relaxed, and said, "Honey, let's go home." Her smile on her face was truly unpleasant. Nicholas's assistant pleaded, "CEO Lisa, I beg you, please go and check on CEO Nicholas. I've never seen him with that expression on his face before." Lisa asked in return, "What's it got to do with me?" Her face remained calm, her voice icy. But I could clearly feel her grip on my hand tightening. She was worried about him. The assistant continued to chatter. "CEO Nicholas is not as strong as you imagine. During those years abroad, if it weren't for thoughts of you, he wouldn't have been able to hold on. He suffers from bipolar disorder. If you were attentive enough, you would notice the scars of his attempted suicides on his wrists. He has asked me many times if things would have turned out differently if he hadn't let go of your hand back then. He regrets it, he regrets every day, but he has no way to turn back now. Every sleepless night, he takes out a photo and examines it carefully. It's a picture of the two of you. The best version of yourselves at 18. Lisa's cold demeanor finally cracked. She slowly released my hand and said, "Kevin, I'll go check on him. He's still in a partnership with the Smiths, he can't afford any trouble." The assistant breathed a sigh of relief. "I'll take you to him." I wanted to say something to stop her, but suddenly, a wave of nausea hit me. I bent over, vomiting heavily. By the time I lifted my head, Lisa was already far away. She didn't even look back once. Chapter 7. I followed Lisa to their alma mater, the place where they made their commitment. Lisa shouted hoarsely. I gave you a chance. Before we got married, I sent you a text message. If you dared to show up at the wedding, I would have gone with you. But you didn't come. Nicholas, do you know why I named our daughter Nicole? I used her to commemorate my lost love, to remind myself that there was someone who had disappointed me. How ridiculous. To her, the daughter I held in my hands was just a memento. I'll tell you, you're arrogant and proud. You didn't want to marry me. There are plenty of people who would. Is Kevin rich? Is Kevin impressive? No. He, just like the old you, has nothing. Tears welled up in Lisa's eyes as she accused him. These years, she dominated the business world, fierce and resolute, hardly ever shedding a tear. But he loves me enough to endure anything, even if my parents say hurtful things. But you don't. Nicholas, you love yourself more. Nicholas looked pained. He told Lisa to stop, admitting that he was wrong. Lisa's smile was desolate, filled with intense hatred. Why do you think I insisted on marrying a poor boy? I just wanted to show you that I have the courage to stand up against everyone, but you can't even withstand my parents' disapproval. Nicholas, you're nothing but a coward. I recalled the time we had just met with her parents. They despised my poverty and resorted to various means to force us to break up. In the end, when Lisa presented a pregnancy test report, they finally relented. Lisa's father, full of disappointment, said to me, Lisa has always been sensible, but she made the foolish mistake of getting pregnant before marriage for you. If you dare to disappoint her, I won't spare you. Lisa also said, Kevin, I'm willing to fight against the whole world for you. I truly believed it was for me. But it turns out, from beginning to end, I was just a tool she used to win back Nicholas. She really loved him to the point of misery. Seeing Lisa refusing to stop, Nicholas unexpectedly embraced her tightly and kissed her lips. She gradually gave up resistance and melted into his arms. I trembled with anger, but still stood in the shadows, capturing this scene on video. I knew Lisa's tactics. After the divorce, she would never let me take our daughter away. She had power and influence, and I couldn't win against her. For the sake of custody of our daughter, I had to pretend I knew nothing and secretly gather evidence of her infidelity. I didn't know how much time had passed, but they finally left. I stopped recording, clutching my stomach, slowly crouching down. Before the age of 15, I never had a full meal and developed a stomach illness early on. Drinking alcohol always caused severe pain in my stomach. Lisa knew all of this very well. But she didn't care. Chapter 8. She didn't come back until dawn. At first glance, I noticed that one of the buttons on her chest was missing. I didn't want to delve into its meaning. Her eyes were slightly red, and her smile seemed forced. Why are you still awake? I was afraid Nicholas would do something foolish, so I stayed with him a little longer. I nodded indifferently and turned towards the room. But she held onto my arm. Kevin, we promised to take Nicole to the place where we first met. I happen to have some time now, shall we go together? Oh, it was a very beautiful island. That day, I had planned to end my life. If it weren't for seeing Lisa drowning, if it weren't for her insisting on treating me to a meal to thank me, I should have long been resting there. I remember that day, the sky was filled with the setting sun, and she hugged my neck with a radiant smile. Everything was so beautiful, like a magnificent dream in my final moments. Later, things fell into place. We ended up together. I didn't have a reason to stay alive before. But for her, I was willing to embrace life with love. Seeing me silent, Lisa shook my arm and coquettishly said, Honey, what do you say? Since you've been under a lot of stress lately, let's just relax a bit. I calmly refused. I have a friend who is interested in my project. I plan to visit him over the weekend. Her expression showed a hint of disappointment. She clearly still loved Nicholas, but she also wanted to relive our old dreams. What was she thinking? Was it guilt? Was it compensation? I clenched my fist, repeatedly telling myself not to be soft. But I still loved her. I couldn't deceive myself. In the early morning, my abdomen twisted in pain. As I opened my eyes, I felt a coldness beside me. I struggled to get up and, while searching for medicine, caught a glimpse of Lisa on the balcony. She held a lit cigarette between her fingers, engrossed in watching an interview. In the video, the reporter asked Nicholas about his romantic feelings. He looked straight into the camera, as if gazing at Lisa from afar through the screen. The most regrettable thing in the world is falling in love with the right person at the wrong time, he said. I will wait for you, until the day you are willing to turn back. I still love you. The reporter was moved and praised Nicholas's deep emotions. Lisa stared at the screen for a long time, finally wiping away her tears. I remembered one year when we were traveling and encountered an earthquake. Almost instinctively, I flipped over and shielded her in my arms. Soon, the firefighters arrived and saved us. Under my protection, she was unharmed, but I fell into a coma. She scolded me, begging me to wake up quickly. She said she had made up her mind about me in this lifetime. But even in that moment, her eyes were only red, not a single tear shed. I was never the man who could make her cry. Chapter 9. Hearing that I was going on a business trip to the neighboring city, Nicole had the biggest reaction. Daddy, you're going for 3 days. What if Nicole misses you? She asked. Over the years, I've cherished her like the apple of my eye, hardly ever leaving her side. I kissed her on the cheek and said, then just call Daddy. Didn't you always want Mommy to be with you? Mommy is on vacation these days and will be with Nicole all the time. She agreed with a fragile voice. Following the plot in the book, Nicole would be safe during this time. I had to get a divorce as soon as possible. As long as I took Nicole and left voluntarily, as long as we weren't an obstacle between the main characters. My Nicole, she would be okay, right? Things went smoothly. A friend recommended my project to a well-known investor in the industry. They showed great interest and wanted to meet me. If everything went well, we would sign a contract directly. My friend sighed. I remember back then, our mentor had high hopes for you. Who would have thought that you would turn around and become a stay-at-home dad? Why did it happen? Maybe it was because I was already used to wandering, and suddenly someone was willing to give me a home. Maybe it was because someone told me for the first time, this world owes you tenderness, and I'll give it to you. Maybe it was because I had experienced so much bitterness and hardship in my tumultuous life, and she was willing to give me a little sweetness. So I treasured it even more, holding on to this ray of light tightly, afraid that if I let go, it would shatter like glass on the ground. But only now, I realized that I have never truly received this beam of light. I smiled and said, it's all about personal choices. It's not too late to start now. My friend patted my shoulder and said, let's go, I'll take you back to the hotel to rest. Perform well tomorrow night. I believe in you, you can do it. Late at night, as I was preparing my documents, Nicole suddenly called me. Her voice trembled with tears. Daddy, I'm scared. On her end, thunder roared. That's when I found out that City C was hit by an unexpected rainstorm. Someone called Mommy and said Uncle Nicholas is sick. Mommy said she'll come back soon, but she hasn't come back. Daddy, I'm so scared. Lisa knew very well that during thunderstorms, her daughter couldn't be alone. Lisa's father had offended many people in the past. Once, a fugitive had barged into their house and kidnapped Nicole. Luckily, the police arrived in time, preventing any major issues. But that day, the sounds of thunder and gunfire, along with the bloodshed, left a deep shadow on her. Since then, whenever there was a thunderstorm, Nicole would tremble. In severe cases, she would even vomit. The psychologist said that during such times, we must stay by her side and provide her with a sense of safety. How could Lisa leave at a time like this? Could a man be more important than her own flesh and blood? I finally understood that she never loved me, and therefore, she didn't love our child either. In fact, she never expected Nicole's birth. I comforted my daughter and called Lisa multiple times. All of her phones were turned off. Nicole cried intensely, sobbing and choking, and it broke my heart. I calculated the time and realized it wouldn't be too late to come in the morning. I quickly got into the car and drove towards home. The rain was heavy, and on the highway, I could barely see the road. I wanted to reach Nicole's side as quickly as possible. But she choked up and urged me, Daddy, please slow down. After giving it some thought, I decided to exit the highway and take the country road, which was closer. Just then, a truck suddenly collided with us. I heard Nicole screaming, Daddy. I wanted to say something, to ask her to turn off the video. I was afraid that the blood flowing from my body would remind her of bad memories. But the excruciating pain hit me, and I quickly lost consciousness. Chapter 10. When I woke up, my whole body was in pain and my leg was in a cast. Nicole saw me wake up and rushed over, crying, "Daddy." Her eyes were swollen like walnuts, as if she had cried all night. I opened my phone to find over 10 missed calls, all from friends who were waiting for me at the banquet. Finally, he sent a message, filled with disappointment between the lines. "Brother, I don't know what happened to you, but this time I can't help you anymore." A deep sense of powerlessness surged within me. I couldn't say anything except apologize. Anxiously biting her lip, Nicole asked me, "Daddy, is it all my fault?" I rubbed her head and said, "It's not your fault, it was an accident." Knowing her guilt, Lisa suggested, "Let's go ask Dad for help. It's just an investment fee, he won't refuse to help you." I sighed, "Forget it." Her dad always looked down on me. If I brought this matter to his attention, he would only blame me for being useless, for not being able to take care of even a child, and for distracting Lisa. "Kevin, it's all my fault." That day, I went out for a social gathering and got drunk. I rested at a nearby hotel. When I heard the thunder, I immediately rushed home. "Honey, I know you were worried about our daughter, but you shouldn't have been so reckless and rushed back in the pouring rain. Didn't you still have me? Besides, Nicole has grown up. She can't be afraid of thunder her whole life. It's good that we didn't rush to her side immediately, it can be seen as a way to toughen her up." The more I listened, the colder I felt. She seemed so calm all along. Because she didn't care at all, she could say such irrelevant things. I said coldly, "Lisa, what really happened? You know it yourself." Her face turned pale, alternating between green and white. After a moment, she sternly questioned me. "Why did you have to start this business? Can't I support you and our daughter? Do you have to compare yourself with Nicholas? Before you started this business, there was nothing wrong with our family. Now, our daughter is terrified, and you ended up in the hospital. Are you satisfied now?" I remained silent, looking at her delicate features contorted with anger. Suddenly, I felt like I didn't know her anymore. Seeing that I wasn't saying anything, she softened her tone. "Kevin, listen to me, can't we stop all this?" "No, Lisa, don't blame your mistakes on me." Her expression turned ugly, and she slammed the door and left. I didn't want to placate her anymore. But I didn't expect that she would almost kill Nicole. Chapter 11. The injuries were severe, so I had to stay in the hospital. The story didn't tell me the exact time and way the accident happened, so I can only be extremely cautious. Fortunately, Nicole is well behaved and clings to me. These days, we are almost inseparable. As for Lisa, we are in a cold war, and she rarely comes to the hospital. The only time was on her father's birthday when she took Nicole without even saying a word to me. When I came out of the examination room at the hospital, she had already taken Nicole and left. I was worried, so I called Lisa and asked her to wait for me. Her voice was cold. "Dad doesn't want to see you." I knew I would face countless disdainful looks, but I just wanted to be with my daughter. But Lisa said, "How are you going to come? Are you going to sit in a wheelchair? You want to embarrass yourself, but my family can't afford that." Her mocking voice was so piercing. Before I could say anything, she hung up the phone. I always feel uneasy. Since Lisa wouldn't answer the phone, I sent her a message, reminding her not to let Nicole out of her sight. When I arrived, the banquet had already started. Lisa was holding Nicholas's arm, chatting and laughing with the upper-class people. They looked so compatible, both in talent and appearance. I limped towards them and asked, "Where's Nicole?" Lisa frowned and looked me up and down, but remained silent. "Everyone here is so glamorous, except for me with my limp." Nicholas stood in front of her and said, "It seems that Kevin is not in good condition. Why don't you go upstairs and rest first?" He had the air of a host. He leaned in and taunted me, "No one here wants to see you, the loser." I wasn't in the mood to banter with him, so I grabbed his collar and asked, "Where's Nicole? Where is she?" Angry, Lisa grabbed my arm and said, "Let go." Seeing that I didn't move, she reluctantly said, "In the garden. She's playing with other kids." "Kevin, what are you going to do? Do you think you haven't embarrassed yourself enough? Are you sick or something?" She attacked me with the most venomous words, but I didn't have the strength to argue back. A scene flashed through my mind. It was Lisa holding the lifeless body of our daughter, screaming at the top of her lungs, "Kevin, you're such a worthless person. What's the use of knowing how to swim? You couldn't even save your own daughter." In the original story, because of this sentence, I was consumed by self-blame. Half a month later, when I saw children drowning, I didn't hesitate to jump into the water and save them. But because of exhaustion, I died in the rushing river. I used my life to atone. That was my ending. I rushed to the backyard, like a madman, shouting Nicole's name. My heart felt like it was about to burst out of my chest. I was terrified. The pain of separation and death had already occurred too many times in the first half of my life, and I couldn't bear it anymore. I couldn't accept that my daughter died in front of me. Nicole! Where are you? Don't scare me. At that moment, I noticed a small hand in the lake. Without any hesitation, I jumped into the water. I exerted all my strength to lift Nicole up, as if I had gained the whole world. I caught up. This time, I personally saved my daughter. I held her, kissed her pale little face, and cried and laughed at the same time. Nicole coughed up a lot of lake water. She was terrified but still tried to comfort me. "Daddy, I'm fine, please. Don't cry." Lisa arrived late, snatched our daughter from my arms, and scolded, "What were you doing by the water? Were you trying to scare Mommy to death?" Her expression was so terrifying. Nicole rushed into my embrace, crying uncontrollably. I held my daughter tightly and said word by word, "Lisa, let's get a divorce." She had a moment of shock. Quickly, she furrowed her brows and said, "What nonsense are you talking about? Did the lake water make you go crazy?" Her words were so harsh now. She was so confident, thinking that I could never leave her in this lifetime. I said, "I've already prepared the divorce agreement. If there's no problem, you can sign it. If we can't come to an agreement, we can go to court." A look of panic rarely appeared on Lisa's face. She moved her lips, wanting to say something. But I had already lifted our daughter on my back and stumbled away. Chapter 12. When I walked out of the villa, I couldn't hold myself up and knelt down on one knee. Nicole exclaimed and cried, "Dad, it's all my fault. I can walk on my own, don't collapse." At that moment, a loud roar approached from afar. A red Ferrari parked steadily in front of me. The person in the car lifted their chin and said, looking like this, "Senior, you're so pathetic." I couldn't really laugh. Behind me, Lisa hurriedly ran over in a panic, "Kevin. Wait, don't move, the ambulance is coming." Helen smirked, "Instead of waiting for the ambulance, why not come with me? I'm fast and steady." I reached out my hand, "Thank you." She understood without a word, but instead of helping me up, she directly picked me up horizontally and put me in the car. Nicole followed me and quickly squeezed in, leaving only Lisa standing there, bewildered. Fortunately, Nicole's examination results were fine. However, my bones were broken again, and I had to rest for another period of time. Nicole felt guilty and distressed, tears streaming down her face. Helen used a few tricks to make her stop crying and start smiling. After soothing the little one, she turned her head and comforted me, "Senior, don't be too sad either. Goodbyes are goodbyes, the next one will be even better." Helen is my junior sister. Back in college, she always followed behind me, either for help with experiments she couldn't do or to pass a certain exam. My grades were well known in the department, so she would always come to me for help when it came to the last minute. I thought she was just an ordinary person from an ordinary family. It wasn't until last month when she appeared at the hospital with a signed contract that I realized she was a true heiress. And that famous and renowned investor that my friends talked about was her mother. Helen happened to come across my business plan and decided to become my partner. These days, she's been busy with the company's affairs. We make decisions together and she takes care of running errands. Seeing my gloomy expression, Helen deliberately tells jokes to cheer me up. After a while, she takes out her phone, points it at my face, and exclaims dramatically, Senior, you finally smiled." I helplessly reply, "I'm not a piece of wood, of course, I can smile." At that moment, I see Lisa standing at the door, staring at me with a grim expression. "Who is she? Is she the reason you want to divorce me?" "Kevin, I never knew you were this kind of person." She seems to enjoy playing the victim now. I had no intention of arguing with her, but I don't want Helen to get involved in this mess. So I explain. "Helen is my partner, and we have a clean and clear relationship. Why don't you know her? Because when I was at my lowest, when I was in a slump, when I couldn't move in the hospital bed, you weren't here. She reached out to help me. Lisa, I proposed a divorce. It has never been because of someone else. Lisa's expression becomes complicated. Nicholas storms into the hospital room, pretending to throw a punch at me. Kevin, what kind of man are you? I use a pillow to block his attack and sneer. In this situation, aren't you the happiest person? Why are you pretending to be a good person now? Helen stands in front of me, sarcastically taunting him. Is it a new trend for a lover to stand up for someone else's wife? Nicholas glares at her angrily. And who do you think you are? You. His words get stuck in his throat. He recognizes Helen. Helen spits and scolds. The Smith family might fear you, but I don't. You're morally bankrupt. Helen comes from a strong background, and Nicholas is nothing in front of them. Now, both of you, get out. The patient needs rest. Helen drives them away. Chapter 13. Since then, Lisa started coming to the hospital more frequently. She began learning how to take care of Nicole, dressing her, feeding her, and putting her to sleep. But Nicole resisted. She had a love-hate relationship with Lisa. I've been the one taking care of her all these years. Lisa is usually busy and doesn't have time for the child. Lisa's parents also disapproved of Nicole because she's not a boy and wouldn't be able to inherit the family business. That's why they generously allowed Nicole to take my last name. They don't show much affection towards Nicole in their daily lives. I can tolerate all of this. But I can't accept that Lisa doesn't love me and that Nicole might meet an untimely death. When it comes to getting a divorce, Lisa seems reluctant again. She's swamped with work for the company, yet she finds time to cook for me. Try it, see how it tastes. I made it myself. She looks at me with anticipation, holding her face in her hands. In her eyes, I see the spark that I once loved the most. I look at the wound on her hand and sigh. Lisa, stop torturing yourself. Helen chimes in. Sorry to interrupt, but I brought him food, and he's already eaten. Besides, that thing on your hand. It doesn't look good. Lisa hardly ever goes into the kitchen. Back when she was pursuing me, she even made me a bowl of longevity noodles. After we got married, she never did anything like that again. Hearing Helen's words, Lisa becomes furious. What's it to you? You're constantly hovering around a married man. Isn't that embarrassing? Do you even have any sense of shame? I furrow my brow. Helen and I are business partners. Lisa, there's no need for such harsh words. Lisa looks incredulous, as if she never expected me to stand up for someone else like this. In 5 years of marriage, I have never spoken a harsh word to her. Every time she's unhappy or faces setbacks, I've always put in effort to comfort her. Fine, Kevin, remember, this is the result you wanted. You won't see your daughter again. She scoops up Nicole in her arms. Nicole realizes what's happening and wide-eyed with fear, she cries out, No. I want Daddy. Mommy is mean. Ignoring Nicole's cries, Lisa forcefully takes her away. And I lie on the hospital bed, completely helpless, only able to watch them fade into the distance. Helen, indignant, stands up to chase after them. I stop her, saying, It's okay, she's Nicole's mother too. But a sigh escapes from my mouth nonetheless. Soon, the divorce case goes to court. Nicholas hires the most renowned divorce lawyer for Lisa. Before we got married, we signed an agreement that in the event of divorce, I wouldn't get much. Her family's wealth would remain hers, with no connection to me. I don't care about all that. I don't seek wealth. I can even leave with nothing. I just want Nicole, my daughter. I present the evidence of Lisa's infidelity, and my chances of winning are high. But her lawyer says, Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Kevin has had suicidal tendencies. Before marrying my client, he attempted suicide several times, as diagnosed with severe depression. Not only that, but his parents' marriage was the result of his father raping his mother. His mother never loved him, and after his father's death, she physically abused him multiple times. These photos I have here show the scars he carries, the remnants of his mother's abuse. Kevin comes from such a family, never having experienced normal love. Is he truly suitable to raise a child? Chapter 14. Yes, I am a child of a rapist. After my mother was violated by that scum, she became pregnant with me. Her parents considered it shameful and sold her off to that scum. With just 3,000 yuan, they sealed my mother's fate. She tried to escape, but in return, she was chained up and locked in a small room. From that day on, she devoted herself to praying for the arrival of death. My mother contemplated killing me. When I was 3 years old, she placed her hand on my neck for the first time. I cried and called out to her, saying I was sorry. I don't know what she was thinking at that moment, she just panicked and let go, her eyes bloodshot, her gaze numb. Finally, when I was 5 years old, that scum got drunk and accidentally died from a fall. My mother finally got what she desired. I don't know if she loved me or not. But I know she must have hated me. I was the catalyst that destroyed her life. So she used every cruel word to insult me and abused me whenever she felt displeased. But still, I constantly yearned for her love. I lived so diligently, studying hard, striving to get into a good university. I just wanted to tell her, I am not like that scum. But she died. She took her own life on the day of my university graduation. The day before, she had promised to take graduation photos with me. But in the end, we didn't take a single photo together. Not even one. My mother, quietly lying on the bed, her eyes gazing out the window, a faint smile on her lips. On the table, there was an extravagant meal she had never eaten in her lifetime. She must have thought that this journey of life was too bitter. Since that day, I feel like I have lost the meaning of living. I am like a walking corpse, wearing a human skin, just to obtain a tiny bit of love. After she died, the human skin fell off, and my heart broke. Until I met Lisa. She is my redemption. But I never expected that my wounds would become her weapon to attack me. Yes, we spent too much time together, day and night. She knew exactly how to hurt me deeply. As Lisa stared at me with wide eyes, her expression urgent, it seemed like she wanted to explain something. At that moment, Helen, who was sitting nearby, stood up indignantly and exclaimed loudly, just because his father was scum, does that mean he is incapable of love? He is an independent individual. He is his own person. He has the right values and an independent personality. Why do you all deny him just because of his background? Every word she spoke resonated strongly. I trembled all over, as if an electric current had passed through my body. There were hot tears, filling my eyes. Due to the disruption of the courtroom order, Helen was asked to leave. Before she left, she shouted, "It is precisely because he has suffered that he knows how to cherish. He knows how to love. He deserves to be loved. Yes, no one loves my daughter more than I do." I straightened my back and looked directly into the judge's eyes, saying, "My background is not my original sin. Yes, I have been lost and desperate before, but the birth of my daughter gave me a sense of purpose in life. I love her very much, and I know how to love her." Then, my lawyer presented a series of evidence. It proved that Nicole had been harmed multiple times due to Lisa's mistakes. The last time she fell into the water, it was my client who realized something was wrong and desperately rescued her. My client loves his daughter dearly, but I believe Lisa is not ready to be a competent mother yet. Lisa's lips trembled. Even the most glamorous marriage, once the warm facade is torn apart, reveals the same filthiness inside. We, who were once intertwined, now hold swords in our hands, recounting each other's faults, wishing to bring each other to the brink of death, one incident after another. Chapter 15. After the trial, Lisa blocked me in the garage. Her voice trembled, sounding somewhat lost. "Kevin, I never meant to say those things. I didn't know Nicholas would do that. I never intended to hurt you." Yes, perhaps she never thought about publicly reopening my wounds. But what state of mind was she in when she recounted all these things to Nicholas? "But Lisa, the knife that hurt me was willingly handed to him by you, wasn't it? Nicholas only did what you wanted him to do." Lisa fell silent for a moment. After a while, she spoke again, her voice choked. "Do we have to reach this point?" Her voice carried a hint of despair. "Kevin, it shouldn't be like this. How did we end up like this? We were in love, weren't we? How did it come to this?" I stared into her tear-filled eyes and calmly questioned, "You constantly professed your love for me, but behind my back, you used every means to belittle me. Lisa, don't you find yourself hypocritical?" A flicker of breakdown crossed her face. "Do you think I wanted this? I already lost you, I can't lose Nicole too. Kevin, you can't treat me like this. Nothing happened between Nicholas and me. That night, we did kiss, but I was just momentarily confused and didn't push him away. We are business partners, Smith and Company needs him. It was all an act on my part. On Dad's birthday, I had revenge in mind. You suspected my relationship with Nicholas, right? So I deliberately made you see how well we got along. I wanted to make you jealous, I wanted you to fight for me. But I never expected it to turn out like this. Yes, it's all my fault. I lost my way, I wasn't responsible, I didn't take good care of our daughter. But I love you both. We've been together for almost 7 years. 7 years. How could you abandon us? Kevin, Nicole is still so young, she needs us, she can't be without a mother. But saying all this now is meaningless. I asked her softly, Lisa, do you remember what you said when you confessed to me that day? The first time we embraced, she kissed the scars on my back and softly said, Fate is so cruel, but luckily we found each other. I agreed, yes, luckily I had her. If it weren't for her, I would have been buried deep in the sea long ago. She promised to give me the tenderness the world owed me, to replenish what was missing. But she lied to me. Lisa, you lied to me, you didn't fulfill that promise. She stood there, stunned, for a moment, before finally covering her face. Tears slipped through her fingers. She's so strong on her own. This is the first time she shed tears for me, but I no longer need them. Chapter 16. Soon, the verdict came out, and Nicole was awarded to me. Lisa was not satisfied and filed a second lawsuit. I really don't understand what she is being so stubborn about. I just want my daughter. Lisa clearly doesn't love her, yet she wants to fight me for her. I arranged to meet Lisa to talk things out. In the cafe, I got straight to the point, without Nicole, you can happily be with Nicholas. She bit her lip, looking hurt, I never wanted to be with Nicholas. Kevin, I love you, why don't you believe me? Why? I remained silent. I know very well that no matter what her current thoughts are, in the end, she will end up reuniting with Nicholas. There are some things I cannot obtain. I have to learn to let go. My silence angered her, and Lisa said sternly, I won't allow my daughter to call someone else mom. I assured her, I won't remarry. Having Nicole in my life is enough for me. She suddenly laughed. Kevin, you really love her. If we had another child, would we not need to get divorced? This is a plot twist that has never occurred in the book. Lisa took out a prenatal report stating that she was over 3 months pregnant. She has polycystic ovary syndrome, and her menstrual cycle has always been irregular, especially during times of stress. I thought it was the same as before. I never thought it was because she was pregnant. Considering the timing, it is indeed possible that it's mine. But by that time, Nicholas had already returned to his country. I shook my head, the marriage must end. As for this child, if Nicholas wants it, it's his business, it has nothing to do with me. Lisa stared at me blankly. Shock, loss, despair. All the terrible emotions played out on her face. She suddenly stood up, her voice filled with excitement. How can you be so heartless? This is your child. What does Nicholas have to do with it? But I don't believe her. People around us were watching. But Lisa seemed completely oblivious. She is a proud person, always composed and reserved, never losing control in front of others. Lisa grabbed me and pulled me out. Fine, if you don't believe me, let's go find Nicholas and let him explain to you. In the car, she asked where Nicholas was. Her emotions were in a terrible state. Nicholas's voice on the other end of the phone sounded anxious. Lisa, where are you? I'll come find you, okay? Don't cry. Lisa hung up the phone directly. In the office, when Nicholas saw Lisa coming in, his eyes lit up, and he stood up to greet her. But when he saw me behind Lisa, he stopped in his tracks and asked in a low voice, Kevin, what are you doing here? Lisa pinched his arm, her voice hoarse. Nicholas, explain yourself. Tell him. Nothing happened between us. We don't have any relationship. Nicholas remained silent for too long, so long that her nails dug painfully into his flesh. He didn't seem to feel the pain. In his expression, there was only disappointment and sadness. Being forced by the woman he loved to deny their relationship, it's not easy for anyone. Lisa urged, Nicholas. Say something. Nicholas looked at me steadily, his voice sounding difficult. Yes, this child is indeed yours. Lisa and I are just friends. His eyes were slightly red, and his voice trembled as he asked Lisa, "Lisa, is this enough for you?" Lisa ignored him. She asked me, "Kevin, did you hear that? He said it, we don't have anything between us." I watched this drama unfold inside. Let it go, it has come to this point. I can't take this child. She held onto my arm, refusing to let me go. "Kevin, I know I was wrong. I won't be stubborn anymore. There's still a chance to salvage this situation. We can be a happy family, can't we? I will learn to be a good mother from now on. If you want to seek revenge on me, go ahead, but don't use divorce as a threat." Her eyes were red, and her tone was pleading. I shook my head. "Lisa, I don't hate you. On the contrary, I'm grateful that you were willing to act for me. I used to firmly believe in your love for me. It's this false love that kept me going until now." One by one, I pried open her fingers. Lisa cried and denied, "It's not an act. I really love you. I admit, I've had moments of nostalgia for the time I spent with Nicholas before, but that's just regret, not love. When we were young, we had a passionate love affair. Does that mean we can't fall in love with someone else in the future? Who says so? Who made that rule?" She seemed to be on the verge of collapse. She had always been radiant, and this was the first time she appeared before me, her face smeared with tears and snot, looking truly disheveled. "But I don't believe it anymore. Lisa, I don't believe in your love for me anymore. Let's terminate the pregnancy. The child shouldn't have come at this time." Chapter 17. Lisa still doesn't give up. I never knew she could be so stubborn. She knows that my mind is made up, so she tries to coax Nicole in different ways. Nicole is just a child, she needs a mother's love. On her birthday, Nicole tells me that she wants to celebrate with Lisa. I can't refuse her request, so I smile and agree. We all go to the amusement park together. Nicole sits on my shoulders, cheering happily, "Mommy and Daddy, I'm so happy today." I hand her over to Lisa with a smile and go to buy tickets. When I come back, Nicole's face is turning purple, her small hands grasping at her throat. And Lisa is crouched in front of her, feeling helpless. I immediately pick up Nicole and perform the Heimlich maneuver. Finally, the peanut stuck in her windpipe is expelled. Nicole bursts into tears. I softly comfort her, "Baby, you're okay. Daddy is here, Daddy is here." It's only then that I realize I'm covered in sweat. A narrow escape. Lisa cries and laughs again. On the way back home, she gently strokes Nicole's sleeping face and says to me, "Ever since Nicholas appeared, it feels like our lives have fallen apart. Misunderstandings keep happening between us, and Nicole has had several accidents. It's as if there's an invisible hand trying to tear our family apart." She finally realizes that something is wrong. I tell her about my dream. Lisa tugs at the corners of her mouth, a bitter expression on her face. "Kevin, you can come up with such absurd things just for the sake of divorcing me." I smile bitterly and shake my head. "Don't you understand yet? As long as you keep dragging on without getting a divorce, something could happen to Nicole. This world exists for you too. You are the main characters, destined to be bound together for a lifetime. Anything that could hinder you will be swept away by the Creator. No matter who you truly love, we have to separate. You are destined to be with Nicholas. Lisa, this is our fate." Suddenly, she collapses and shouts, "It's not like that. It's not like this at all. We can change it. Our destiny should be in our own hands. Why? Why?" She doesn't believe it. But the occurrence of the third accident quickly gave her the answer. This time, Nicole just went out for a moment and nearly died under the wheels of a car. It was Helen's quick reflexes that saved her, using her body to shield Nicole. By the time I arrived, Helen had already woken up, smiling and asking me for a reward. Thankfully, nothing serious happened. I gasped for breath, collapsing into a seat. Nicole asked softly, "If it was Mommy, would she protect me like Sister Helen did?" Lisa's trembling lips remained silent. She simply knelt by Nicole's bedside, shedding tears silently. That night, Lisa sat motionless in the hospital room, like a silent shadow. It wasn't until dawn broke that she croaked out, "Kevin, let's get a divorce." Those words seemed to drain all the strength from her body. She wiped away the tears from the corner of her eyes, shoulders slumped, and walked out of the hospital room. Later on, Lisa withdrew her appeal and scheduled a miscarriage operation. Before entering the operating room, she tried to speak several times but hesitated. In the end, she only handed me several ultrasound photos of the child. If this can ensure that you and Nicole live a healthy and smooth life, then I'm willing. I wanted to say something, but my throat tightened. My eyes were still red. I never imagined that we would end up like this. Chapter 18. 6 months later, Nicholas and Lisa got married. They had a grand and lavish wedding of the century. On social media, there was an overwhelming flood of pictures of them embracing at the wedding. Looking at them, it truly seemed like happiness. I calmly exited the news feed and turned to Nicole, asking, "Sweetie, what would you like for dinner?" Nicole sat on the carpet, playing with the Barbie doll that Lisa had sent her. She tilted her head in thought and crisply replied, "Daddy's homemade tomato spaghetti." Lisa had sent Nicole many things: toys, clothes, books. Everything she needed. Every week, she would come to visit Nicole a few times accompanied by Nicholas. Although each time, she wouldn't stay for too long. She was afraid that something might happen to Nicole again. Helen sighed, "Indeed, only a thief fears encountering another thief. Nicholas is afraid that you'll steal her away." After marriage, Lisa came less frequently. I heard that she and Nicholas had many arguments. One time, Lisa got drunk and called me, crying, "Kevin, I dreamed of you again." The three of us, walking happily on the beach. Why can't two people who love each other be together? Why? Kevin, tell me. I was about to hang up when I heard a loud noise. It was Nicholas snatching her phone and throwing it to the ground. "Lisa, when will you stop going crazy? We're already married. You're my wife now." Lisa cried and told him to leave. Nicholas's voice was filled with helplessness. "I'm begging you, can we just live a good life together? Lisa, please stop tormenting me." Lisa remained silent, only sobbing sounds escaping from her throat. Their married life was completely different from what was described in the book. Since then, Nicholas has been constantly surrounded by tabloid news. Their life has become a chaotic mess. I have been busy with work and taking care of Nicole. I no longer have the energy to pay attention to other people's lives. Later on, my company started to thrive, and we met at a banquet. I was dressed in a suit, surrounded by a group of people. CEO Kevin is truly remarkable. In just 3 years, he has achieved so much. It's incredible. Only the Smith family isn't as lucky. They thought they hit the jackpot with Nicholas, but little did they know, his company is about to collapse. Lisa's father is furious. Don't underestimate a young man's potential, don't underestimate it. I listened to these compliments and remained silent. When I looked up, I saw Lisa standing not far away, with a restrained expression. In her eyes, there seemed to be a glimmer of tears. She held a glass of wine and walked towards me slowly, as if she wanted to talk. Nicholas appeared behind her with a gloomy expression and pulled her away. As I went to the restroom, I unintentionally overheard their conversation. Nicholas pinched her face and asked, "What do you want? Do you regret it?" "It's too late. Helen is already by my side. She's a wealthy heiress, how can you compete with that? Just accept your fate, you belong to me for the rest of your life. We can't be separated. We can never be separated." Saying that, Nicholas leaned in to kiss her. Lisa pushed him away forcefully and slapped him. "You disgust me. Don't touch me. Get it straight, we're only in a business alliance." This time, Lisa and Nicholas couldn't save each other. I quietly left. That day, Helen had a lot to drink and insisted that I take her home. I was about to refuse when she said, "I know you don't drink, your stomach can't handle it. Come on, just give me a ride." She had already gone this far with her words, so I had no reason to refuse. In the car, Helen chattered on and on. Suddenly, she looked at me intently and said, "Hey, Kevin, do you want to take a look at me?" She had been drinking, so her speech was a bit slurred, but her eyes were shining brightly, and she seemed genuinely serious. This contrast was quite adorable. "I've liked you since college, and I planned to confess on the day of your graduation. But you never showed up. After that, I searched everywhere but couldn't find any trace of you. The next time I heard about you was when you got married. On the day of graduation, news of my mother's passing reached me. Since then, I've wandered through the world like a lost soul. Kevin, I've already missed you once, and this time, it's absolutely not allowed." I stared into her eyes and earnestly refused. Helen, you're so good, you deserve someone even better. During my lowest point, she tirelessly encouraged me, helping me regain my strength. She said to me, where did you fail? We're all just walking in different time zones. Some people move fast, some move slow. You're about to accelerate. In my eyes, you're the most amazing. A man who can work, cook, and take care of children is the most handsome. Her personality is really different from Lisa's. Lisa is like water, gentle and introverted. She is like fire, passionate and free. She deserves the best man in the world. Upon hearing my words, Helen pouted and displeasedly said, oh, if you don't want to, then don't. Why give me the good person card? I'm not worthy of you. She pretended to be angry. Whether I'm worthy or not, it's for me to decide. What right do you have to make decisions for me? I parked the car at the entrance of her villa. Here we are, you should get out now. Helen snorted coldly, and as she got out of the car, she muttered, Kevin, if you miss me, then cry. I shook my head helplessly. But she stomped her feet outside the car window and said, can I wait? I can wait until you get divorced, and then wait for you to open your heart. What's so difficult about that? Senior, your heart isn't made of stone. One day, it will melt because of me. Besides, Nicole also likes me. She says she wants me to be her mom. I didn't know what to say. Just as I was about to drive away, Helen shouted from behind, no, I can't let you go like this. Senior, wait for me.